Hey y'all, welcome back to my channel, or welcome if it's your first time. My name is Catherine Young and I'm a creative. In this video, I am going to talk about body positivity, body acceptance, and body inclusion. And just so you know, this is a tough topic. This is probably going to be the video that I get the most unsubscribes for. This is probably going to be the video where I get the most mean comments for, but it's also a video that has really been on my heart. And I hope just putting out this video helps somebody. So I'm going for it anyways. Also know that I am actually referring to notes that I wrote down about this video because I wanted to make sure that I was saying what I wanted to say about this topic. So if you notice me glance down more than in my other videos, I'm referring to notes, that's why. So I want to talk about this topic, but I'm also going to talk about it in a way that is my personal experience, okay? So I'm going to talk about how I've dealt with things, how I look at things, and my approach to things. And I'm also going to talk about how it relates to YouTube, how it relates to thrifting and vintage, and how it relates to me being an artist as well. And that being said, learning in our lives is a continuum. It is a continuous line of moving. There will always be somebody that knows less than you, always somebody that knows more than you. The goal is to keep moving on that continuum. The goal is to know more tomorrow than you do today, right? So my goal with this video is to put out information I know and the truths that are true to me today. And in a year, I want to look back at this video and be like, wow, I know so much more than this video. That's the goal of life. The goal is to keep moving forward and keep trying to do better. So if you have the same opinion about something that you had 10 years ago, you probably need to re-examine that because society has moved forward, culture has moved forward. And I can tell you right now that this video probably won't age well. And I will probably look back and be like, ugh, cringeworthy on things I say just because I will have moved forward and will know more. And as we get going, just think about body positivity, body acceptance, body inclusion as intersectional, okay? This is a topic that touches on so many other topics in our society. This topic has ties into race, inequality, rape culture, bullying, plus size and too skinny, disabilities. It ties into all sorts of things in our culture, income inequality, all kinds of things. This is one of those topics that doesn't live in a bubble. This is one of those topics that ties into all kinds of things. And just because I might not mention all the different ties doesn't mean they aren't there and doesn't mean they aren't something that should be considered. Okay, so as I go forward and talk about body positivity, body acceptance, just know that there are going to be times when I'm going to go into different sections of things. I'm going to go into intersectional aspects, and you're going to be like, this has nothing to do with body positivity. But just know a lot of this stuff is connected, and what I go into ties into body positivity for me, even if it doesn't for you. There is almost nothing in this world, in socioeconomic learnings, in inequality, in culture, that lives in a box. There is almost nothing that lives in a box. It lives in a silo. You know, we're in a meme culture where we put out this one opinion, we claim it covers everything. This is it. This meme is the God-given truth. It's just not. Everything has gray areas. Everything touches everything else. Just going ahead, know that I'm going to do a swath of information and pick apart pieces that are relevant to you. And if they're pieces that aren't, that's okay too. Also, just know I'm going to talk about dieting and things like that. And if that is triggering for you, thank you for making it this far. This video might not be for you. Also know I'm going to say words like supposed to look. And I'm just referring to the idea that is presented to us in media as the norm for appearance. That's all I'm referring to. You will have your own image in your head as what that is, and so will I. So it's not going to apply perfectly to everyone. So growing up, I realized that I wasn't the cute little girl I was supposed to be, probably around 4 years old. 4 years old was when I absolutely remember having thoughts of, wow, I'm ugly. What is wrong with my body? Why don't I look like I'm supposed to? And a lot of it is just images that we see around us. I would take these holiday photos every year with these porcelain dolls that my mom collected. And these porcelain dolls were these beautiful little girls of what little girls were supposed to look like. And then there was me next to them with like my frumpy little double chin, and I was just embarrassed. Like I to this day, I can't look back at the family videos and family photos because I feel the feeling I did as a girl when I took those photos. So I hate looking back on them because they make me really upset because it stirs up those old emotions. And in my family, like many others, and I remember many mothers doing this, my mom would avoid being in a photo like the plague. She would make comments about how nobody wants to see her, she's ugly, she's not going to be in front of the camera. But by the time I was 9 years old, I was basically the size of my mother. So just hearing that, you know, these women that I saw in my life were saying that they were too ugly to be in front of the camera, yet I looked like these women, I was super embarrassed to be in front of the camera because from what I saw, I looked like these women. Why am I in front of the camera? Why does my ugly body have to be there? The first time I specifically remember weighing too much was when I was 11 years old, so it was 5th grade. And I remember that I was 11 years old and I had a size 11 jeans. And if you know anything about women's jeans, that is basically the end of straight sizes, right? And I remember a lot of girls in my class then were griping and complaining how they were almost 100 pounds. Ugh. And they were just going off like, oh, I weigh 88 pounds, I'm fatty. Oh, I weigh 99 pounds, I'm such a fatty. Well, at that time, I already weighed 135 pounds. And so, you know, I could do math in 5th grade. I realized I weighed a third more than these other girls that I hung out with. And instantly I was told, was shown, pressured by society that there was something wrong with me. Why am I so much bigger than the other girls? And that was really the first time that I knew that I was overweight and there was something seen as wrong with that weight. Now for sure, growing up, especially in grade school, I know I made fun of kids that were chubbier than me. I'm absolutely sure of it because as a kid, we just want to fit in. We want to be like everyone else. So I'm positive that I took a target and placed it over somewhere else so the target wasn't on my back because I just wanted to fit in like everybody else. But it doesn't make it right, but it's also what kids do, right? You know, looking back, I can understand how hard it would have been for those other kids who are even bigger than me. I would also say about 11 years old was the age where I really became aware of what boys thought of me. It's when I had my first boyfriend. I think we talked on the phone once. I don't think it was anything. But, you know, I was always the girl, and I always have been the girl who has guy friends. I am always the girl who's just one of the guys. That's just the girl I am, right? But even starting then, the guys that hung out with me would pretend they didn't hang out with me around their guy friends because honestly, what I looked like, I wasn't the type of girl they should be seen with. And that was a narrative throughout my life, and I'll talk about that more as we get going. But I remember specifically around this time, the boys in my class would, they basically like date every girl in the friend group. And it came out that they had a list of all the girls in our class from dateability, like from the cutest to ugliest, and I was the ugliest, the last one they would date. And as I moved on into like junior high, high school, this kind of stuff continued. I was definitely one of the guys. I was the girl who had best guy friends, and they would always, you know, tell me in private and like these really meaningful conversations of how they were just into small girls, and I wasn't one of them. You know, I'm not the kind of girl they would want to date. And they would ask me if this girl would like them or this girl. You know, I was like, they're into learning about how women thought, but yet I was seen as completely undateable. In junior high and high school is really the first time that I remember that I would intentionally not eat food. I wouldn't go as far as to say I was starving myself, but I was always hungry. There was never times when I wasn't hungry. I would never eat till I was full. I would usually have like a salad and a bowl of soup all day. Like that's all I would eat for the whole day. I would also exercise a ton, probably more than I needed to, but it wasn't enough to make my weight go down to where I wanted it to be. When I went into college, I had even more practice on this whole idea of like, I have to work out to keep my weight down, right? When women get into college, it's just a different scenario, and you gain weight, your hormones change, your activities change. But I would basically use exercise as like a punishment to my body for gaining weight. I would spend close to 2 hours a day in the gym. In fact, I can be on an elliptical, I can be running, I can do all that and read a book in front of me, even though I'm like bobbing up and down, and people are like, how the hell can you do that? Like, who can read while they're running on a treadmill? Well, I can, because I trained myself to do it, because the only way that I could get my homework done, plus still burn like 1,000 calories a day to try to keep my weight down, was by working out while I did my homework. And that idea of being the girl who had the guy friends definitely continued into college. But it also came with that same kind of wanting to hide me, wanting to pretend they weren't with me when their guy friends were around. You know, you start noticing these things, and you try to shrug them off, and you try to think it's not happening, but it did keep happening all the way through college. I also dated a lot of men who kept me a secret, who hid me, who didn't want people to know we were dating. You know, they'd always word it in the absolute sweetest ways, sweet little nothings in your ear. But really, at the end of the day, when it came down to it, they didn't want their friends knowing that they were with me, romantically or otherwise. And that is really a painful experience to go through. And it really justified to me at the time that my size was a huge problem and was limiting any potential I had to be happy. And as social media became a thing, I also saw more people kind of be embarrassed of being with me, especially men. You would notice with men, they would post like selfies of themselves somewhere, and they would post that they were out whatever, doing whatever, but they would never take a picture with me and post it. So it was like, oh, like, do you just don't show pictures of people you're with? But then like the next week they were out with a girl that would be like a smaller size, and they would post a selfie with them. So it was like you'd watch these men behave differently when they were with you, and you were almost like the secret friend. And just like I said, I did have guys who kept me the secret girlfriend. I actually dated a guy once that told his friends I was stalking him, even though I drove in the same car as he did to the bar that we were at. I've also had some problems with my career and the way I look. I've definitely had coworkers that will get compliments, I mean, even up to now, that get compliments on the way they look all the time and the way they dress and being so fashionable, right? And one thing I've really noticed is I've tried to dress like those coworkers. One of the things I'm super grateful for 2020 is I really have come into my own for my own style. And I think it's just being isolated and away from the coworkers that all have a very certain style. And what I noticed is I could dress just like those coworkers that got compliments, and no one would compliment me. It's because I don't look the same in the clothes as those coworkers. This is a super common trend. You can see it in magazines. Celebs are like so fashionable, and they're wearing just like sweatpants, but if like a regular person wore that, it wouldn't be fashionable. There is actually a great account, a social account that I'll link below, that she mimics celebrity styles and shows you what a celebrity style looks on larger sizes. So that's super interesting. But I noticed that in my workplace. I also even had one time where I was called into an office and told to go home and change for what I was wearing, when I was wearing a very similar outfit a coworker wore an awful lot, but she was very petite and very small. And I brought that up. I was like, hey, this coworker wears this kind of outfit all the time. And they were like, no, it's different. And I'm like, no, this coworker wears the same outfit all the time. And they did send me home and made me change my outfit. And you know, it's one of those things that being a woman in a career field, your size does dictate how people think of you. You know, I want to say good or bad, but honestly, most of the time I think my size in my career is more of a bad thing. One thing I've always struggled with my whole life is kind of the idea that my body is wrecked, or that my body is ruined, or that my body is disgusting, right? And a lot of it comes from the way mothers and women who have children talk about their bodies after they have children. There's a lot of comments about how their stomach's ruined now, how their stomach's flabby now, how their stretch marks are so embarrassing, how their body is wrecked by childbirth, how their body after childbirth is the lowest they've ever been in their lives. That kind of talk is just so toxic because my body looks like I've had a child. My body has stretch marks. My tummy is flabby and loose. It is not firm. My body looks wrecked. And that's just the way my body is. And it wasn't some kind of consequences of bringing the dream of having a child, right? Like, we kind of talk about it in our society as like this dichotomy. Like, if you want the dream of having a child, of this great noble thing of having a child, the consequence is ruining your body. Your body is the sacrifice. Well, I didn't bring a kid into the world. What sacrifice did I have? Like, what noble thing did I do? Apparently nothing. Apparently my body's just wrecked. And also just think about how toxic this type of talk is for kids. You know, I talked about earlier about my younger life, the way the women around me talked about their bodies. But if you are talking about like your body's wrecked, it's the lowest point of your life after you have kids and yada, yada, yada. What if one of your kids struggles with weight issues? I think about that all the time because you are telling them that this version of yourself is so bad, it is the lowest point of your life. What if they look like that version of you? I can also tell you, it really did take till my 30s to finally realize there is nothing wrong with my body. There is nothing wrong. Despite what other people think of it and how other people judge it, there is nothing wrong with my body. And it took me 30 years to figure that out. And in all honesty, it took other women talking about it for me to understand. Because when all we have are the same messages, the same cultural toxic messages, and we don't hear a counter narrative, that's all we know. We don't know how to articulate or understand something different. And I can also tell you, it really has only been within the last 5 or so years that I've been able to find clothes that I love, that fit me, that I think are adorable. Growing up, it was always few and far between finding that one item that looked good on me that I liked. Now I'm finding a lot more clothes now than ever, and that's changing with the times. But think about that. It's only been the last 5 years that I've even felt like I could find the clothes that I liked. Think about that. But the good thing is, things are changing. Body inclusivity is becoming more mainstream. People are demanding seeing all different types of bodies with different abilities, different sizes, different colors, different genders, different gender identities. People are demanding this change, right? And so people are starting to see themselves in the media. They're starting to see themselves around the world. Things are changing, and that is great. But there also has been a huge backlash against this. And this is specifically for plus size too. People are starting to say that you're promoting unhealthy habits about bodies. By showing larger bodies, you're promoting bad health habits. The truth is, you don't know if somebody's healthy just by looking at them. And that is the God's honest truth. Lizzo just posted this Instagram video, and I will link it below. And she runs on a treadmill and sings one of her songs. I mean, this woman, do you know the kind of lung capacity it takes to do that? I mean, she goes out and sings and belts songs and is dancing and is playing with a flute. You cannot tell me this woman is not in exceptional shape. So her going out into the world looking exactly like she looks isn't somehow promoting bad healthy habits. This woman is at the top of her game. And the fact that even in society we have to have that conversation about you can't tell somebody's health by looking at them means we have a hell of a long way to go. You know, from 2016 to 2019, through those years, I suffered from cluster headaches, debilitating headaches. I'll link that down below so you can see that. I had over 800 headaches a year. It was absolutely horrible. And I went to a nutritionist during this time to see if maybe something I was eating was triggering them, something like that. And it was the first time ever I went into a doctor's office and the doctor didn't weigh me before the appointment. And I was just dumbfounded. She never weighed me before our appointments. And it was a breath of fresh air. And she would say, you know what? I don't care about your weight. I care about getting you healthy. And I just thought that was the most amazing thing, knowing that this nutritionist cared about solving my migraines. She cared about my health. She did not care about my jean size. And I can't tell you how many times doctors, especially male doctors, have given me unsolicited advice about how to take care of my weight. You know, maybe weight's the issue around whatever I go in for. Or they'll be like, and this medication has the bonus of you might lose weight. Like, I don't care. Like, I'm having 800 migraines a year. I'm crying in the middle of the day at the office. I don't care if I drop 10 pounds. You know, it's just, so it was really interesting to finally go to a nutritionist and have somebody whose specialization is nutrition, and she could give a shit about the scale. When it comes to body positivity, I protect my own mental health and what I'm consuming. I try to stay away from any entertainment that puts women into stereotypical tropes about their weight. A super common trope that women get put into is their husband is very overweight with a beer belly, yet the woman that they married is insanely skinny and has an insane body. That is a huge trope that Hollywood portrays, and I try to avoid. I also try to avoid shows where women are constantly talking about their weight and catting back and forth about their weight. A lot of reality TV shows do this pretty horribly, and so I try to avoid that. I also try to avoid shows where larger women are fetishized as like strange, or you know, like these shows about people that are really morbidly obese, and it's a weird, like, voyeuristic kind of thing into their life. I try to avoid that. I also try to avoid shows where they're like, weird couple, the guy's thin, the girl is not, weird. Like, I try to avoid these things. These things aren't strange. They aren't a weird fetish to watch. This is real people's lives, and it should be normalized instead of made a spectacle. Lily wanted some attention, so we're just gonna let it go. We're gonna let her have her attention. So another really common thing you see with plus size women in entertainment is they're always like the fat, funny best friend. They're never the lead in shows. They're always like a supporting character. You also very often see plus size women, their entire story arc is based around losing weight, or sometimes it's a fitness goal, but most of the time the plus size women, it's something about losing weight. And after they lose weight, they magically get a boyfriend and they magically get a better job and all the things. So I really do try to avoid those kind of tropes around women and their size. There's also a lot of reality TV shows that do the same thing with women on these big fitness goals and such. I can tell you, when I saw the TV show Shrill, I'll link that down below. It was the first time I ever saw a plus size woman in the lead, and her story arc wasn't solely about her losing weight. It hit really close to home. Also, she had a boyfriend who was kind of hiding her, pretending, you know, he wasn't dating her. And that hit close to home too. But you guys, I cried because it was the first time I saw a plus size woman who her sole role in the show wasn't a commentary on her size and how she needed to be smaller. And I'm like I'm in my 30s. Like, it shouldn't take that long to see myself reflected in a story where my weight isn't the sole thing we talk about. So when I think about women in my life and how to impact women in my life, I'm really intentional of not leaving comments that are about their bodies. I just try not to leave comments that go in that genre. In society, we tend to go down that lane, and I intentionally try not to. I also intentionally avoid before and after culture. You might not have heard of this term, you might have. What before and after culture is, well, we're seeing it right now. It's February, early in this year. It's where people post a picture of them before where they had been heavier, and then they post an after where they're thinner, and they seek adulation from people around them. It usually comes with commentary of how the person before, the heavier sized version of them, was the lowest they've ever been, how it was shameful, how it was embarrassing, and how the new them is just so much happier and so much better. Now, I totally am so proud of people that lose weight and make fitness a priority. Like, that is amazing. But there is absolutely no reason to take a picture of you before and say how bad that person is. There is no reason. You can post a picture of yourself now and just say you're healthy, you're happy, and you don't have to show an image that shows thin good, bigger bad. Like, you don't have to do it. You actively do not have to do it. It is a cultural norm that we created, and it's super toxic because it aligns with everything else in our culture that's like thin good, bigger bad, and you're just putting it out into the world. And God, we love before and after culture. We give so much attention to people who lose weight, from Oprah to Rebel Wilson. Oh my God, our culture cannot get enough of like a celebrity that loses weight. But that's only one part of who this person is. Like, if all you can talk about is Rebel Wilson's weight when she's an extremely talented actress, our culture, we really focus on the wrong things, and it is just systemic and built in to our everyday life. Before and after culture is huge. And you may think, well, if before and after culture bothers you, that's your thing. It's up to the person whether they want to do it or not. Absolutely. But think about it this way. What if the woman gains the weight back? Do you think she's going to post a picture of being like, here was me thinner and here's me now? Absolutely not, because she set a precedent that the larger size is shameful. So it's toxic for the person who's doing the before and after posts as well. I'm also very conscious of anytime weight loss is kind of pitched as like a journey and this life-changing thing somebody's going on. Losing weight should just be an aspect of your life. It shouldn't change your life. But when you look at all these TV shows that like when a woman loses weight, she gets the man and the job and the thing. Like, we are literally trained to believe that if a woman loses weight, her life becomes everything she wants. And that idea is so ingrained that we have this culture that brings up like journeys around weight loss and all this stuff. And really a lot of it is just selling you shakes and patches and stuff to lose 10 pounds. And it's not super healthy. It's not super healthy. You know, people are fasting, AKA starving their body for a chunk of time, which your body is not made to do. You know, it's hard on your brain to do that even. So I'm really conscious of those things. It's a huge swath of gray area. There is no black and white on what's right, what's wrong. We all have to, you know, look within ourselves and decide where we draw the line. But these are things that I actively avoid and try to keep out of my life. I am also not comfortable with using the word fat to describe myself yet. There's nothing wrong with the word. Fat is an okay word to use, and many people embrace fat. But I'm not comfortable. And it's because it has so much stigma and has had so much stigma for so long. But you see this with a lot of terms that are used in bullying culture. People will reclaim that word as their own to stop bullies from using it. You can think about these as racial slurs that people pick up and then use as their own terms. It's because they're reclaiming the word that someone has used to bully them and discriminate them. And it is okay, and it is a way to handle it. I'm just not there yet. I am just not there with calling myself fat. And I even still get uncomfortable calling myself plus size. It's something I'm working on. I'm also very aware that when brands portray plus size women, they often aren't plus size. They often are size like 10, 12. Even Amy Schumer was on the cover of this like plus size issue, and it was like about body positivity and such, and it kind of alluded to Amy being bigger. Amy Schumer is a size 8, and the industry considers her big and plus size. You know, so you got to understand that when the media is saying, oh, look, we featured someone plus size, it's not truly representational of the plus size community. Often people who are models or in the media who are plus size, portraying plus size people, have very equivalent curves to somebody who is skinnier. when really plus size bodies come in all shapes, rounded and squared, and they look different, and they're all beautiful and they all look different. But the ones that are shown are the typical hourglass, and we're made to think, now that's a plus size body, but it's just not everyone's. There's also lots of cultures that very much focus on like the butt and the booty and the hips and all this stuff. Well, not everybody's built like that. They're just not. So we have to be aware that like in media, even when we are showing plus size people, we're often not showing people with an apple figure or a very round figure or a plus size person that is like straight down like a brick solid. We're often not seeing that. We're often seeing just larger representations of a very straight size standard. One thing to also be aware of about sizes and about companies jumping on the bandwagon of size inclusivity is a lot of these companies say they carry larger sizes, but they don't actually. If you are a plus size 3X, 4X, 5X, 6X, if you start getting up into those larger sizes, you will run into this problem all the time. You'll be looking for clothes in your size, you'll order your size, and when it comes, it's actually like a size 2X or a size extra large. Tons of companies do this. They claim that they're carrying the big sizes, and they are not. And I know because I'm a 2X, and in many of these companies, I have to order a 5 or 6X to fit into it, and I'm a 2X by standard sizing. So these companies get the adulation of being size inclusive and all the things, but they really aren't. And plus size people know they aren't. And, you know, if you're a straight size person, it's nothing you have to worry about. It's nothing you have to care about. And you think, wow, they're really being size inclusive, but really the company is screwing over plus size people. So now I want to talk about larger sizes as they relate to different areas of my life, and one is vintage. I expect this part of the video is going to be the video section that I get the most hate comments, that I get called out the most. People are gonna, you're so wrong, you know. This is the part. So here we go. Many vintage shops, when they curate their shops and make the presentation, they put the clothes by color. They just arrange it by color, and this is not inclusive. And the reason why is I need to know that if I walk into a shop, there are only 4 dresses on the floor I might fit into. It is not fair for me to have to look through an entire store to realize there really was nothing there for me. And when you're a smaller size, maybe there's 200 dresses on the floor that fit you. And as you go up in sizes, every size, there's less and less vintage that'll fit you. But when vintage shops do these beautiful color layouts and they don't do it by size, it's a problem, and it's not size inclusive. And we need to advocate for our favorite vintage stores to not organize that way. And I can tell you what, I can think of some of my favorite vintage stores right now, and they don't do it the right way. There's also this huge belief that larger people just didn't exist in history. What this comes from is the idea is that we eat badly today, so people are just much larger. I'll give you that. I'll give you that we're larger today and that we eat more food than ever before. However, there were always big people in history. In fact, there is an Instagram account called Historical Fat People, I'll link it below, that just shares fat people throughout history just to dispel the stupid negative stereotype that people believe that fat people really didn't exist. I mean, I can look at my own family tree and old photos from generations before to know it's not true. You know, there's like this turn of the century photo of my great great grandfather, and he's huge. He's a giant man. You know, it's something as a society we really need to stop perpetrating, and the vintage community, especially vintage clothing, doesn't do very well with this. I constantly hear people who wear vintage, who are smaller, talk about how nobody existed back then who were bigger. It's simply not true. If you think that belief is true, just give me a moment. Just hear me out on this concept, okay? It has only been in the last 5 years that I have felt I can find clothes I want in a reasonable price in my size. Just in the last 5 years. And I even told you about how some stores pretend they have larger sizes, but they really don't, okay? That's in the last 5 years. And we are still nowhere near representation and size that we need in the fashion industry, okay? Now go back 10 years. Probably a hell of a lot worse. Now go back 20 years. Even worse. Now go back 30 years. Even worse. So when you go farther and farther back, of course there's going to be less clothes that are plus size, right? Because the fashion industry has never catered to plus size. And those people living back in the day, they probably wore their outfits out too. Like, and when I don't mean like outside out, I mean like wore them out, like wore the clothing to where it couldn't be passed on. Because when they probably found a dress that fit them, it was probably something they had to keep for a long, long time. And they probably had to get it specially made too. And because fashion never catered to larger sizes, and it got worse as you go farther back in history, there probably wasn't even the cute styles that you're looking for back in history. You know, they specifically did not cater to those sizes. So when you kind of perpetuate the stereotype that fashion back then just didn't exist for larger people, what were the larger people wearing? Did they have clothes? Were they all walking around naked? Because they weren't. They had clothes on and they were larger. We just don't see a lot today for the exact same reason. As a high schooler, I couldn't find clothes that fit me that I liked. It's because the fashion industry didn't care about me. I also want to talk about thrifting and plus size. And the biggest issues with thrifting and plus size is the exact same thing that I've been talking about this whole time. It's availability and access. There are always going to be less plus size clothes just because the fashion industry doesn't cater to us. Some of the toxic things that are happening in the thrifting industry relate to vintage and relate to content creation and all this, right? So one, some thrift stores do curate by color yet again. Still a problem, still a problem. Another is the idea of these thrift flips. A lot of people will go out and they will get a very large garment, one they call ugly, and they will take it down to a smaller size and make it something else. Well, you just took a garment that fit somebody else, called it ugly because it's big, and then took it from them when you could just find a garment in your size that would work. So there's some real problems with the thrift flipping idea and such. So just be really mindful when you see that out thrifting. Also be mindful when you go out of picking up sizes that are your true size. If something's bigger, someone else who is bigger might need that size. And the larger you go up, the harder and the smaller the sections get. Also, online thrift shopping is very hard right now because oversized is a look. So you'll have somebody who's, you know, say a size medium, and they'll be wearing a big cardigan and they'll just be like medium oversized, but it's not. It's a 2XL cardigan, a 3XL cardigan, an extra large cardigan, but they won't list the true size. They will just list how it looks on them. And that is truly problematic too, because we need to know what actual size that cardigan is, right? Because that is my size. As much as you're calling it oversized on you, it is my size. And I need to be able to find that cardigan too. Also, kind of on the line of thrift flips, a lot of thrift flips are done for social media posts and YouTube. And body positivity and body acceptance has a lot to do with YouTube and me personally. Just because I go on camera and my body's out there for everyone to see does not give people a right to comment on it or be mean about it. In society, we constantly say things like, well, what did you expect? You put yourself out there. This idea that if you put yourself out there, you deserve to get attacked is really a threat disguised as wisdom. It is okay to put yourself out there and not expect to be attacked. It's probably not going to happen. I'll probably get attacked for this video. But just because you put yourself out there does not give, you know, everyone free reign to attack you. Despite people, you know, saying it does. It actually does not. And I am worried about how I look like on YouTube. I have scrapped whole videos because I didn't like how I looked. It's real. I'm very nervous about the way my nails are because I chew my nails. I'm very nervous about my side profile and my double chin when I'm filming. It is real. Seeing yourself on camera and being nervous of how you look is real. And I can tell you, I think I look prettier with makeup on. So I put makeup on. I can tell you that if you took two side-by-side photos, one of me without makeup and one with me with makeup, I would think me with makeup on is prettier. And as much as I wish I didn't think that, I do think that, and makeup gives me confidence. But I am slowly working on wearing less and less makeup in front of the camera because I think it's important to put myself out there the way I am. You know, we have a trend in our culture, we have filter culture where everybody takes the photo from way above, and I'm guilty of it too. But I mean, people take photos and they put filters to make their eyes huge. They put filters that take their neck down and their body down. I know people who will not post a picture of themselves unless it's this insanely filtered thing. And whether they are battling with body dysmorphia or, you know, depression, whatever, I mean, putting out nothing but filtered pictures of yourself is also toxic to other people, because what you're saying is, hey, if you don't look this good, filtered good, you shouldn't put a picture on the internet. And I think about this all the time. I think about, you know, even people who have kids and they always post pictures of themselves filtered. Like, what are you telling your kids? That the only time that your photo can go out in public is when it goes through this crazy filter? It's rough, guys. It's rough. So, you know, as much as I would love to go without makeup, I'm probably always going to wear makeup in some form. Who knows? It could change in a year when I look back at this video. But I definitely don't want to participate in filter culture because it's not super helpful for anyone. And however I have participated in the past, I don't want to do that anymore. This is who I am. This is what I really look like. Here I am. And the last point I want to talk about is art. And you may be thinking, what does art have to do with body positivity? Well, as artists, by creating art, by making things, the things we feature, we are telling the world that this is important. We are giving people an opinion about something. We are taking time to focus on something and uplift something by recreating it and making it a work of art, right? And me, like so many other people, I started drawing Disney princesses when I was little. To adulthood. I only recently realized that the only things that I draw that I love the most are teeny petite white women with giant doe eyes that look like Disney princesses. It's like 99% of what I draw. And that's a problem because I'm saying this image is what's worthy of recreating. And it's not the only image that's worthy of recreating. All sorts of images are worthy of recreating. So I am definitely working on that right now. I'm really working on drawing people of different sizes, different skin tones, different abilities. I'm also trying to look around my house, which also has images of beautiful skinny white women everywhere. Truth reflecting at me right here. And trying to make the artwork more diverse. Because as an artist, we have a voice of telling the world and pop culture what's important. And if we only put out that stereotypical image, we're adding to the problem. And it is something I'm really trying to change. And it's a continuum I'm on to this day, you know, it's progress I'm moving forward with. And this whole video was really progress I'm moving forward with. I think a year ago, no, you know what? I know a year ago I would be too embarrassed to put out this video. And here I am, I did it. I'm on the continuum and I'm moving forward. So that's it, y'all. If you've stayed with me this whole time, you are amazing. You are awesome, and I'm rooting for you. There are gonna be links below of people that I've learned from, books I've learned from, resources that I've thought were great. If you got to the end of this video and thought, wow, like this doesn't apply to me at all, you know, just think that this might apply to someone you know. And especially if you're straight size, standard, if you fit into what media shows us every day, we could really use you to help uplift the issue to other people. We could use you to leverage your privilege to help others around you. So I encourage you, no matter where you are on your continuum, to learn more and to think about, maybe you have a niece, maybe you have a friend, maybe, just think about people in your life who could really use you understanding more about body inclusivity, body positivity, and body acceptance. And goodness, I thank you for being here. And I thank you so much for watching this video. And I hope that this helps someone. And if this helped you, I'm rooting for you, okay? I'll talk to you later, guys. Bye. Always cat hair in my nose when I go to film, every time. Blah, 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 blah. Oh God, okay. When it comes to blah, blah. Getting kitty kisses. All right, here we go.